Hey guys, it's Marco again, presenting you a Fire Mage guide for the start of the Shadowlands expansion. In this guide I'll cover almost everything you need to know about the spec. I need to note that I'll make a separate video for open and rotation, since my editing program is killing my laptop when the video gets too long. Sorry for the inconvenience. You have timestamps in video description as well on the video timeline, so you can skip topics that you already know or aren't interested in. Before we start, I need to say that Fire is my favorite spec to play and I'm happy that they're good at the start of the Shadowlands. So I'm looking forward to our mega scaling. Let's start with ability changes. First, I'll cover Fire Mage specific stuff, and after that I'll talk about the general changes, which are the same as in the previous Frost Mage guide. All fire abilities receive damage buffs, most of them being flat 10% damage buffs. Combustion lasts 12 seconds now, changed from 10 seconds. We got a new ability, which used to be a talent in BFA, Phoenix Flames. Hurls a phoenix that deals 90%, changed from 75% of spell power, as fire damage to the target and reduced damage to other enemies. It no longer has a guaranteed crit, it has 3 charges and a 25-second recharge timer. And the last and biggest change which happened to Fire Mages is a change to our mastery Ignite. Ignite no longer passively spreads every 2 seconds, now it spreads to 8 targets after you hit a target with Phoenix Flames. I actually hate this change and it feels kinda clunky to use it. But those are the only changes which happened to Fire Mages, nothing too drastical, the class feels the same, and here are the general mage changes. Arcane Explosion was made baseline for all mage specs and it's a nice addition to Fire Mages. You want to keep this on your bar for when you need a bit of a burst AoE. Arcane Intellect now grants 5% intellect, changed from 10%, but Scrolls of Intellect no longer exist, hence Arcane Intellect became our utility ability. So any raid will want to bring at least one mage. Mirror Image is no longer a talent, it's a baseline cooldown for all mages. But it's a different ability now altogether. It's no longer a DPS cooldown. Those images do little to no damage to the target, they're a small defensive cooldown for damage reduction. Alter Time made its comeback, it's one of the strongest defensive abilities on 1 minute cooldown and will be used quite often, and it will make you almost self-sufficient healing wise. That's all from the important ability changes, now for talents. First row of talents didn't receive any changes, we still have Firestarter, Pyromaniac, and Searing Touch. Searing Touch is a go-to talent here, you become an execute class after 30% HP just due to this talent. And Scorch offers movement since it's castable while moving. Firestarter is a decent pick for some bosses. First boss that comes in my mind is Lady Ashwayne. She had an absorb shield at the start of the fight, which effectively made you crit for a longer period of time. But on average this offers less damage than Searing Touch. Pyromaniac is never used, the only chance I see for this talent is if there is some kind of a boss who starts at 90% HP and ends before 30% HP, but I never encountered that kind of a boss. Second row of talents has seen some changes. In Shimmer, they increased its cooldown from 20 to 25 seconds, and Blast Wave got its damage and slow duration buffed. The last talent in this row is Blazing Soul. This is an easy talent row, since we want mobility to do more damage, so Shimmer is a natural choice for us. Third row got the new talent option, Focus Magic, increases the target's chance to critically hit with spells by 5% for 30 minutes. When a target critically hits, your intellect and chance to critically hit with spells is increased by 5% for 10 seconds. Rune of Power has been reworked. It no longer has 2 charges, but now it spawns immediately after you use Combustion. And last option of this row is Incanter's Flow, which remained unchanged. For Fire Mages, Rune of Power is the best option in this row. Combustion doesn't have a long cooldown, and your whole damage is based on your burst periods, which suits this talent perfectly. Fourth row lost Phoenix Flames and gained From the Ashes. Increases mastery by 2% for each charge of Phoenix Flames off cooldown, and your direct damage critical strikes reduced its cooldown by 1 second. Alexstrasza's Fury has seen a cool buff, now it has a new addition. After you use Dragon's Breath, damage done by your next Pyroblast or Flame Strike is increased by 35%. And lastly, we got the one and only Flame On. I really think that this is one of the coolest talents roles for mages, but sadly Flame On is just too good of a talent for it not to be picked. From the Ashes currently doesn't see any play, but Alexstrasza's Fury can be used for some heavy AoE situations. The only problem with it is that you need to get close to your targets, since the cone of damage isn't too big. But overall, just pick Flame On and you will be optimal. Fifth row didn't see any changes, we still have Frantic Speed, Ice Ward and Ring of Frost. I usually go just for Frantic Speed, since it offers us additional mobility, which is always nice. And you have to cast Scorch in your execute phase, or whenever you're moving. Ice Ward and Ring of Frost are situational talents, both are good if you need additional CC. Sixth row also didn't see any changes, but this row is the least interesting one to me. We got Flame Patch, Conflagration and Living Bomb. Conflagration deals such a low damage passively, but it's a go-to talent for single target situations, since other two talents of this row don't offer anything in single targets. At 2 targets I already recommend picking Flame Patch, because currently it does a ton of damage on AoE situations and I prefer it over Living Bomb in all situations. And lastly we got the 7th row. Pyroclasm got a small negligible buff. Other talent which has been buffed is Kindling. Your Fireball, Pyroblast, Fire Blast and Phoenix Flames critical strikes reduce the remaining cooldown on combustion by 1.5 seconds, changed from 1 second. And the last talent in this row, which remained unchanged, is Meteor. Currently the best and go-to talent in this row for all situations is Kindling. With it, you're going to get your combustions every minute, which is great. And overall, I prefer this talent since it makes fire more dynamic than Meteor. And that's it for the talents, they're pretty much set in stone without a lot of room for changes. But now for Covenants. This is yet another easy pick. Nightfey Covenant is the best one for fire in all situations. So from solo target fights to heavy AoE fights. Shifting Power is their main ability for mages, and it works really well with fire mages. Fire mages have a decent amount of cooldowns and their damage outside of combustion is fairly weak, so you won't even lose DPS by channeling this ability. Their other ability is Soul Shape, which is a mini blink that transforms you into a fox, which increases your move speed by 50% and allows you to cast mini blinks on a short cooldown. As soon as you throw any ability, you lose your fox form. To quickly touch on the Soulbinds, Corraine is one of the best for fire mages on solo targets, and Dreamweaver is the best one on every other fight. But Nia is still pretty close to her. Ventier is my second pick for fire mages. They're close to Nightfey damage wise on one target fights, but on multiple targets Nightfey takes an easy win, this being the second Covenant damage wise. Their main ability is Mirrors of Torment and you gain Fire Blast cooldown reduction after each activation. Other ability which you get with choosing Ventier is Door of Shadows. This ability is similar to Blink, but it has a bit longer range and it has a cast time. And their Soulbinds are all quite well balanced in all situations. Necrolords are my third pick for fire mages, since their ability Deadborn is a nice addition to Fire Mage Burst. Their second ability is Flashcraft, which you channel for 4 seconds. It creates a shield to up to 20% of your maximum HP. Their best Soulbind for all situations is Amani. And my last Covenant pick is Kyrians. Their ability is kinda cool for solo targets, but it doesn't offer anything more than that. But in case with fire, they're really killing it at solo target fights, doing the same damage as Nightfey Fire. But as soon as there is more targets, they fall off drastically. Their second ability is called Steward. Again, my favorite ability. It calls a small little owl creature, which brings you potions which heal you for 20% of HP and remove curse, disease, poison and bleed effects. Their best soulbind in all situations is Pelagos. If you want to know a bit more about these soulbinds, I have made a video just for them, which I'll leave in the description. That's it from the Covenant specific stuff, now onto Conduits. I won't go over endurance and finesse conduits in this video, since they're just matter of preference and I already covered them in my Frost Mage guide, which I'll leave a link to as well. I'll cover conduits based on which are the best ones for certain types of situations. Single target situations. You always want to pick Infernal Cascade. It's like a new Blaster Master, and I'm absolutely loving this conduit. And second best conduit is Control Destruction. Improving Pyroblast damage is a definite yes from me. Third conduit in my opinion should be any Covenant Potency conduit, except Gift of the Lich. So Siphon Malice, Ire of the Ascended, or Discipline of the Grove. Fourth conduit is Flame Asseration. I don't like this conduit and it doesn't offer a lot of DPS. Fifth conduit is definitely Gift of the Lich, Necrolord's Covenant conduit. This one is really bad for single targets. Sixth conduit, and the one which doesn't offer anything in solo target fights, is Master Flame. Now for AoE situations, so 3+ targets, the best conduit still remains Infernal Cascade. Second one should be Master Flame. Third ones are all Covenant conduits. Fourth ones are useless in these types of situations, so Control Destruction and Flame Asseration. Lastly, always check your conduit's ranks, since sometimes the ranking will change depending on your conduit level. So my advice is that you use simulations to determine which one is the best for you. That's it for conduits. Now for legendary powers. I don't want to go over all legendary powers for mages as I did in my previous video, since I find it kinda useless. I'll give you a short look on them, in case you aren't familiar with them, and I'll just talk about the best ones. Firestorm is the best legendary power for fire mages in all situations. I recommend finding some weak auras for their proc, since the game will only tell you that it procced by a distinctive sound. This legendary has no internal cooldown, it's just RNG, so you can find yourself proccing this 10 times in a minute, or not proccing it a single time in 2 minutes. It's a bit frustrating, but it's still our best legendary and it's fun to play with it. Second best legendary power in my opinion for all situations is Arcane Legendary Temporal Warp. And I recommend that you make this one on a ring as your first legendary, since all specs are good with this legendary. Third best legendary power for fire mages in all situations is Fevered Incantation. But don't be hasty about making this one, focus on ranking up Temporal Warp and Firestorm legendaries. That's all I got to say about legendaries, and now for a short stats topic. Intellect is usually the best stat for fire mages, followed by Haste. Versatility is usually their third best stat, followed closely by Mastery. And lastly, our worst stat is going to be Critical, since we already have tools to get criticals. But again, item level is going to matter a lot, due to power of intellect. And as always, the only way to determine what is the best for you is by simming your character. And that's it for stats. Fire is the most fun mage spec for me. It's a bit harder to play, since you need to get used to combusting and you will need a lot of time to master it, which makes it very fun to me. Currently this is the best mage spec in Shadowlands for solo target fights, edging out both Frost and Arcane. And that's it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you have any questions or improvement suggestions, please leave them in the comment section. I'll soon make a video just about their rotation and opener. Also, did you know that only 7.4% of the people who watch me are also subscribed? So please subscribe, it's free and it will help me a lot. Thank you, and until next time, take care.